All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing?
We are all
Fine,
good.
fine today.
Good.
Wow, Sunday night, huh? You'd think, it'd be just like kind of doing anything but this, but it seems that the project is exciting enough, and I can't believe like, all day today. I've been getting, people sending me questions. I'm pretty sure, Brian, you've been bombarded today as well. I'm pretty sure Elbic and Mabruk, like, all day today, issues being opened, pull requests being created. I had a guy create a pull request with 16 files changed, and I shut it down. Then he opened another one with with 16 files changed and saying, "Okay, I changed it. Now what?" And I'm gonna talk about these in a little bit. I just want to say here that um, uh, last night, we got stuck a little bit with um, with the acceptance test, right? And it seems that there was just a little bit of we kind of forgot to kind of commit some code, and we figured it out. It was just something in RESTful sense. The beautiful part about this is that I engaged Steph. Steph is the guy that developed WireMock, and let me just show you some of the really cool things that he had to share. I said, okay, we figured it out, but and I'm gonna explain to people now what the problem was, but and why it was passing sometimes and failing sometimes. It's a very interesting story. But Steph went, I told him, hey, I need your help here. I really appreciate it. Leverage Twitter, leverage all these social networks that you have. Don't just use it to kind of troll people. I mean, trolling is fun sometimes, but as long as it's harmless. But if you can leverage it to connect with these smart people, that's much, much better. And if you look at the acceptance, the acceptance test, let's see here. There it is. So look how many pull requests got merged since just yesterday. And there's some that got closed and there are some that are active. Anyway, so look what Steph left in here. He basically said, dude, you don't really need to pass in a port in here. You don't need to pass a port. He said, if you just say wire mock server start, it'll find an open port for you automatically. That's amazing. That's beautiful. I love that part. And then the other thing, he said, instead of you going and doing this nonsense, why don't you just go and say this.wiremockserver.url? See the beauty of this? Just engage with people. They're going to give you some really cool things to do. And we're going to do these right now. Okay. The other thing that he left here, he basically said by default, if you don't specify this, it will be 200 okay. So he basically said you don't have to return status code. That's amazing, right? Because if we don't have to do it, why do it, right? And then this one, I don't know, Steph, I mean, I'm trying to find a simpler solution, brother. So he basically said this with body as JSON uses the default Newtonsoft JSON serializer. If you don't want that, use this. So this is, I'm okay with Newtonsoft only because I like Newton King. He's a great dude, and he's a nice guy. And then he added some comments and all that. So these are very valuable stuff. So let's go this way. Elbic, let me give you this screen for a second, and let's fix these things that Steph said about it. Just code rubs. So I'm gonna create an issue in here, and this new issue will be basically code rub address Steph comments on acceptance tests. PR. So I'm gonna just kind of reference the acceptance test in here. So I'm just gonna go into the closed, and let's go to, and then we're gonna discuss a couple of other things, because actually, to be honest, the community engagement is much, much more fun than, I mean, I spun up, at least 12 or 13 libraries by now. Brian even spun up some libraries with me, contributed to it and all that. You could do that in your sleep, but engaging the community, that's much fun, much more fun. All right, so here's Elbic. So Elbic, let's start from the top. Let's go to, I need you to increase the resolution on your screen, 150 or yeah, 150 would be okay if you can. Also, you're on mute, just FYI. Yeah,
So
that's
I think should be good.
yeah, very, very good. Let's create a code drop comments resolve. Cool.
Yeah.
So let's go to let's first make sure that all the tests are passing. So why don't you just click on the test tab at the top and just run everything for me?
Yeah.
Let's do it. I don't know why Gregory is having trouble with the acceptance tests. I hope that it's just a port thing. I really hope so. But you know, you never know, right? There's always something. What I want out of this, like it's more important to me to solve that one person's machine, because if it's him, when you scale, that's going to be 20,000 people. Like if your library scales, that one person will be 20,000 people that are experiencing the same problem. So don't take that lightly. Okay, my friend, let's go to the acceptance. Let's go to the root of this.
All right.
And instead of start 1989, let's just take that out.
All right.
And then in the API URL, just type this.wiremock server. No. In API.url equal this.wiremock server dot URL. Okay, so that's one. And then the other thing that he said, if you go inside the prompts CS, the other file, and if you go on to, if you scroll down a little bit with the server setup, keep going, take out that HTTP. Okay, yeah, we don't care about that. So that's good. And then what else did he say? There is a and that's a, you know, I think Rafsanul Hassan, he left me a couple of good comments there that I can actually incorporate into this PR, but let's just run all the tests now and see what happens. Good. Good. So
Yeah,
much cleaner, much better, right? All right, go ahead and commit that and
let's
say
run it until failure. Let's try.
let's give it 20, 30 runs. Sounds good.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
3, 4,
How
5.
fast this thing is. Have you noticed it's is it incrementing time incorporating the multiple runs, or is it getting slower by time? I think it's just incrementing naturally. I hope so.
Yeah.
Gosh, I hope so.
Yeah, 20. Okay, I think it's enough, right?
You think so?
Yeah,
I mean scientists say a good sample is 33, but to kind of, you know, make a theory, but I think that's okay too. Let's do it.
all right. So
Yeah,
result.
literally just say address, address Steph's comment or on WireMock. On
comments of
WireMock,
stuff.
yeah, of Steph on my WireMock utilization. Yeah, WireMock.
Wire mock.
Cool.
Right?
Yep. Create a PR.
All right.
Oh,
Create a
you
pool.
forgot to say closes and all that. It's okay. Let's do it on the web page.
Yeah. So
Don't forget to press save all.
I wonder why Brian is pressing on that.
I don't have that button. If you look at here.
Oh, why is that? Is that the community edition or something?
Yes.
Ah, okay. Okay, we'll fix that for you. Create a pull request. Let's it's already created.
Oh, I'm not sharing the screen, but yeah, but I've created already.
Cool. I'm gonna take your screen here. Let's go back to the pull requests. And in the pull request area, we basically just want to say, let's go to OpenAI net. And here is a pull request, Stefan Wiremock. And I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna give him a shout out because he's actually a nice guy. Like people don't have to do these things, right? But they do it. You know, they do it because they're good people, right? Yeah, Steph Edge, that's it. So let's go back here. Thanks, Steph. Okay, and then I'm gonna just kind of merge this because you already did a run for me, so we don't have to wait just for the time of the stream and whatnot. Okay, and a lot of other changes have happened. I just want to recognize Gregory changes. He kind of fixed the folders. So now if you go into the unit tests, you'll find foundations, completions. People have been going like this all day, which I really appreciate. Everyone wants a chance to learn and build things. If you look at the timing on the pull request in here, you'll find 11 hours, 2 minutes, 16 hours, 8 hours. You'll see people going around the clock. The other comment that I wanted to add here, which was for, yeah, Rafsan Al Hassan. I'll just say Hassan, just a little bit easier for me. And one of the things he has a huge PR. He put a lot of time and effort in this. And Hassan, if you're watching this, I really appreciate it. I'm not talking to myself. I'm talking to the gentleman in here. And here's some of the cool things that he did. And I actually think it's pretty cool. So look how in here he basically went and said, "Hey guys, why are you writing by hand application slash JSON when you can just type media types applications dot JSON?" I think that's pretty neat. I think that's very clean code, and I think we should kind of, take that into consideration. Let me zoom out a little bit just so people see. So there's that part. I thought that was pretty cool. The other thing that he did in here, which is the bearer token, he basically went and added, let me just minimize this. He added something in here that I find quite interesting. He basically did, why would you say bearer when you can kind of create a new value called authentication header value? And then you can go and say JWT bearer defaults that authentication scheme, and that will add automatically that bearer piece for you. Okay, so that's also a good piece. See, you're incorporating and working with people. They're gonna tell you things. It's much better when you're doing it on your own, right? I saw other things in this PR that are quite interesting. There are things that we're kind of talking about. What's a handler? Is that a broker? Is that a service? Do you have business logic in here? If you have business logic, then it's a service. Like this here, this question mark in here, that's business logic, right? Are you guys familiar with the question mark, question mark? If this guy is null, then give me a particular value and so on. Yeah. So there's still a little bit of a discussion in here, but definitely for the people in the community, take a look at Hassan's PR in here. The other PR that's interesting is Steph. Steph came back in here and he said, "Hey, it might be quite fun if you could just go ahead and create this as a Fluent API." Okay? What he's basically saying is that instead of you going and saying, create this whole big model, why don't I just build it in a fluent way? Building it this way in a fluent way is just another exposure layer. It's just another option that we can create. It's not a bad idea. We do it in the entity framework. When you go and say entity with many has one primary key, all that stuff, we're doing it, right? It's one fun way that engineers kind of thought would help a person kind of create a request. Like, look, he's building the request the way he's doing his wire mock. He's saying with request, with prompt, with model, and all that cool stuff that he's doing. That's not a bad idea either. Just so you know, he's doing this because it was in his mind as well to build an OpenAI.NET library. It's just time, motivation. So many things come into play. That's why, Steph, if you're out there and you want to jump in some of these sessions, we'd love to have you. Steph is the equivalent of a principal engineer. This guy creates libraries that gets downloaded by the millions, right? Okay, so this is just something that we need to consider. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna leave an open issue in here, and I don't know if that's an issue that, no, it's not an issue. In here, I'm just gonna say exposure clients. I'm gonna say discuss using Fluent API for building completion requests. And underneath, it should do that magic for you. So you're not passing a model at all. You're just getting a value, right? And that extension is doing all that magic underneath, okay? And then I'm gonna reference the pull request from Mr. Steph here. It's crazy, man. We got people from all over the place kind of building this thing with us. That means we're probably doing something right. Probably. I don't know. Okay. Any comments, questions, concerns about any of that? I think we're good, right? Okay, let's go back to this thing and let's do the last piece. And this last piece is to basically build an integration test. This one is the easiest one of them all because what we're really doing all in all is just technically, the closer you get into the test, like you go from unit test to acceptance test to integration test, the closer you are to imitate the end user's behavior, right? So now I will never, just for example, I will never ever go and try to whatchamacallit, I will never try to give access to internal models to this integration project. Why is that? Because that's your user. That's your end user. They're not going to have access to this either, unless they pull the source code and they do something hacky with it, then that's their own choice. Okay, so let's do this. So I'm just going to go here and say pretty much the same thing. I'm just going to go and take integrations. I'm going to go and say clients. I'm going to say APIs this time. And then under APIs, an API is not just RESTful. An API can be a library's exposure layer. And this one here is basically we want to test we want to do the completions. And under completions, I'm just going to go ahead and say, here's my class. And here is completions API tests. Here's my guy. Here's my copyrights. Hey, by the way, LB, oh, did someone already delete? Oh my God, people already deleted the delete me file. So Elbic, create a task for this to delete the delete me file. I don't even know what's happening anymore. Hey Crusher, how are you doing? All right. We never had Crusher here before. It's happy to see you. Okay.
He's one of my best friends.
Oh, Crusher is one
And
of your best friends?
yeah, he is very, very good software engineer from Egypt.
Awesome. He's from Egypt too?
Yeah,
He's from Egypt? Okay,
yeah.
cool.
We are working together in some projects.
Awesome. Awesome. A pleasure to meet you, Crusher. And please don't crush us. Take it easy on us. You know what I mean? I don't know what time is it in Egypt now. Is he in Egypt too?
Yep.
Time in Egypt is 7 in the morning. Wow, I'm getting you guys waking up in the morning, So this is becoming a personality builder test like the military. I'm getting you guys, because
When
there's
you
no engineer out there that will wake up at 7 in the morning. You're gonna have to be a really good reason to get them to wake up that early.
when you see him programming is like when you see programming video to 2 times speed.
Yeah, he goes fast. That's good.
Yeah,
He loves what he
he's
does. He loves what
actually
he
very,
does.
very good. Excellent. Yeah.
Okay, then Crusher, let's crush it. Average developer
And
timings.
he's still 19 years old.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going all over the place here. We're
Yeah.
like we went from Alan, who was actually using punch cards in his lifetime. Actually used. Do you remember Alan? We talked to Alan earlier, to Crusher, who's 19 years old. So we're all over the place here. I love the range. Okay, let's do this. So private read only. There's a little trick in here. Private read only, and then I want OpenAI client. That's my guy, right? And here's a constructor, and I want to initialize this guy. This guy wants a configuration, pretty much the same thing. The difference here, there's a little difference in here. We'll talk about that in a second, but I want the OpenAI configurations, new API configurations, right? And here's where it gets serious, because this is an integration test. You have to actually run a real run against the API, which basically means that this call is not just a normal API call. It's going to be expensive. It's going to cost you pennies every time you run it, right? So you expect Every time you're pushing, you're running this. We're going to talk about filtering that in a little bit. But this guy also wants some stuff. So this guy wants the API key. It wants the API. It wants the organization ID, and it wants the API URL. The API URL, we already have it configured by default. So just to be very verbose as much as possible, you know, we're gonna go ahead and say, here is my API URL right here. Now here's something I just noticed, and I don't know how this ever worked. How come our completions in here says v1/completions? And our API URL in here has v1 in it. Do you know why that worked in the past? Because we typed it out. But that shouldn't be here.
I
And
think
that
I think the broker might have this hard coded as well.
the broker,
Mm-hmm.
let's see, completion. So at the broker level, we have this in here.
Where does it build the base URL with a where does it build the HTTP client?
Oh, the client, it builds the client right here. No, it's just taking the API URL.
Yep, sorry.
So why this worked in our last demo, and I bet you that's exactly what happened. I typed the URL in. So it did an override to the bad default value. Now you're seeing how integration tests are now exposing even more issues because now you're running end to end. See how every test is tackling a certain aspect of your software. So if I go back to this OpenAI URL, so I have this guy right here, and we need the API key and the organization ID. Question to the group. We want this to run in the pipeline. And we want this to be also able to run locally. What's the best place to store these secrets?
If it
Million
was
dollar question.
app settings, I would
Mm,
say if it was ASP.NET
mm,
project, I would say ASP.app settings. But
mm.
this is a test project.
Right. And even in the pipeline, you can't
Environment
push environment variable.
variables. Yeah.
That's one option. Any other options? Anyone else?
There is something called the local secrets.
User secrets, right?
No,
But
Yeah,
user secrets, how are you gonna tell your, how are
the
you gonna tell
pipeline.
your, you have to think about
Yeah,
this beyond the local machine. So as far as I know, from my perspective, as far as I know, your best bet is environment variables. And then we're gonna have to go back to our build project and tell it to add some environment variables from user secrets that we're gonna put in the pipeline. Pay attention to this one because that's the production stuff. That's the intangible things, way beyond hello world. So okay, let's do this. So that means I want my API key to come from, I don't know, API key. And I want my, let's go here, and I want my organization ID to come from also a secret. So this is org ID. The URL is not really a secret, so we really don't care. But we need to be extremely explicit about what these things are and all that. Okay? All right. Do you guys know how to set up an environment variable in Windows? Let's see. I think it's simple through the command through the command line, you know, but I wanted to kind of let's see, is it excuse me. So setting an environment variable, let's see here. You basically do set, and then you do the variable, and then you put the value in there. So let's try it out. If I go here, let me get the real organization ID of my API. So OpenAI, playgrounds, and then I'm just gonna navigate. For those of you like who read the documentation, you'll find all these details. I'm not hiding anything. This is exactly how this works. But the organization ID, here's my org ID, and then I can just go up in here and say set org ID equals, right? Like this. No, well, Crusher, we can't set it up in the code. It has to be set up in the environment, in the setup. I think that's how you do it, right? Let's find out. So if I go up in here and I make this my, I'll run that test. So I'm just gonna go up in here and say fact, public, async, or it doesn't matter really, foo, like this. And if I say assert true, like this, and this is true like that, and I just put a breakpoint in here and I try to run this guy, Control RT, it should hit that guy at some point. And if it set up the org ID properly, it should do the trick for us. Let's go. Come on. By the way, just for the people wondering what software we use for this streaming, I use something called StreamYard. It's a startup, but they're doing a lot of amazing things. And one of the cool things that I really like about them is that I can see in real time even the reactions when I'm streaming, you know, on Facebook and all that. So I thought that's pretty cool. Okay, I don't know why it didn't just run doing Control KD, but Control KD, yeah, but let's just run it this way. So you are because I switched the library configuration into release mode. That's right. Because I was trying to see if I can set up the yeah, I'm good. So let's debug this. Oh my God, Felipe is back. Do you guys remember Felipe? He's from South Africa. Will you use GitHub? Yes, I will use GitHub secrets, and I will show you how to do that right now. Right now. We'll play by the book. Okay, another problem. This guy needs to be public. Cool. I guess that's why it was freaking out. And what else is in here? Completion, foo, yeah, that guy. Come on, give me a breakpoint. So this org ID should actually give me a real value, just to show people how this is actually set up. So if I go into this OpenAI configurations, and I do an ad watch, it should have the org ID. Didn't have the org ID. So why is that? Did I say org ID? And then in here I said set org ID equals. Is it the space maybe? Maybe the space? So set something like that. And then let's try this again. I don't know also if it caches environment variables, but no, that doesn't work. We're gonna have to do a little bit of studying on this, guys. Let's go back here. And let's go into Google. How about I just ask ChatGPT about it? Do you guys think that's a good idea?
Set space, the name of the variable, and equals, then value.
That's what I did, but it doesn't see it. How do I set environment variables in Windows? Very much probably what oh God. How about through command line? So this is it. You just set the value, right? So what is set X? To set permanent environment value that will persist after you close. Aha. Aha. Use the set X command followed by the variable name and its value. Do I want to do set X? Let's do a set X. I don't care. We can always remove it, right? So let's do it this way. Set X org ID. So that's the variable name, which is basically what I'm trying to pull from here. So environment, get environment variable org ID, right? So here's that guy, and then I'm gonna paste in the value, which is this guy.
And the example didn't have this equal sign.
Oh,
Only
it,
space.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, okay, okay, that's it then. Well, I'm gonna try it with just sit then to just see. Okay, good catch, Elbic. Let's do this. You don't do these things every day, so.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. And then on the API configurations, do I have my quick watch still? Yes. Nope, it didn't add the value in there.
Let's try with set x without equal sign.
Set x without equal sign. Let's do
Yeah.
that.
That's what I used when I'm playing around, you know,
Okay,
fine
like
tuning.
this. Oh, the
Yes,
specified this never happened before. The specified value has been saved. So that's the way, huh? Okay, we're gonna need to add that in the documentation because nobody's gonna remember that. Let's see. If 10, and then I have my configuration watch. We have this guy, so you refresh to get the new values. Still no. What do you think? What's the problem?
if you go and say set itself, it will read all the environment variables. And I think if we don't have any,
Hmm.
if you don't have any
Maybe
secrets in
maybe
the
maybe the error that we have is that we don't. Hold on. This is fun. So you're not wrong. You just do this and you set up the value, right? Okay. Now, how do I read that variable value from C sharp?
Hmm.
So look, it's doing the same thing. Environment dot get environment variable. Is it case sensitive? I don't think so, but I honored the case. Like I honored the case for it. So, ideas, suggestions.
After
So here's
after you set it, maybe try and close and open Visual Studio.
I'll close and open Visual Studio. Okay. You know, you never know, right?
Mm.
You gotta try everything, right? Let's do it. I mean the fact that we're
Maybe
researching this right now, we're saving hundreds of people time to set up the environment variable because they'll go, so okay, these guys actually got stuck, and here's how they fixed it, right? The only difference is I'm documenting it. That's all. What were you gonna say, Mabruk? Go ahead.
maybe you need to wait. I just was seeing something. Maybe you need to add this quotation mark when you
The
when
double
you comment.
quotes?
Yeah,
That's a good point. So set x org ID, because there was actually double quotes in the
yeah.
in the example. So
Yep.
you're not wrong. Let's do this. Comma. By the way, some odd window just popped up on my screen, right?
And it took much time. Then.
Yep, org ID. And then Gregory says org ID, set x org ID, but calling no, it's O uppercase O. I think Gregory, I think you're looking at this value here. That's just part of the ID that I'm calling. Okay, let's do this and let me debug this. Let's see. I have a feeling this might work. You guys think it's gonna work? Let's see. So here's environment, and then add watch. Oh boy. Nope. OpenAI configurations. Or wait, maybe I'm wrong. Oh, it didn't load
You
yet.
did,
So
yeah.
F10, and then let me add watch, and then here is, yeah,
Yep.
that works. So, Mabruk, you got it. Okay. Now I wonder if just set would work. right? So sit X is persistent forever. It's gonna sit there. Would just sit works? I don't know. But in order to verify this, I'm gonna open a command line out here. This is completely hidden from what I'm sharing on the screen. And then I'm gonna add an API secret in there. So I'm just gonna generate an API key, okay, a brand new one. I'm gonna go here and say sit X. You don't see this. I'm gonna say call it API key. And then I'm just gonna paste between double quotes this value in here. Okay, so now this value is added. We will find out if this actually is working as soon as we start running the application. So if I go up in here and say this.openai.completions.post prompt completion async, and then new completion, thanks to Brian Parker, now we don't have to kind of write 3,000 properties. It's just the one. There you go. What does Crusher say? SetX updates the value permanently. Its scope doesn't remain limited. Yeah, we understand that. I think the only error that we were having that it's we weren't putting the double quotes. Okay, so request new completion request, right, Brian? And then model. We didn't solve yet for the autocomplete, DaVinci.
Text dash DaVinci dash 003.
See, I'll never, it's gonna be an issue for a lot of
You
engineers.
gotta have a dash between the 003.
Oh my God. Okay, and then prompt equal. This should be prompts. There's a pending PR for this one. Please, Elbeck, help the brother. He's from your neck of the woods. He's struggling with merge.
Yeah.
So if you can help out there, I'd appreciate it. Human.
With the fluent approach, the other gentleman was suggesting we can use the what do you call it? The parameters for the prompt, so we can pass in one string or an array of strings.
No, I understand. Yeah. I mean, because he turned it into a method.
Yeah.
And I understand that. Yeah, I see what he's doing. We're gonna do it too. Like we could have multiple exposure points.
Mm-hmm.
Like good software should give you multiple ways to do the exact same thing. Now I love how Copilot is auto-completing.
The answer.
We're not gonna be able, like, dude, I don't know, like like we're building for OpenAI and OpenAI is completing the sentence for us. It's fun. It's really fun. So just for people to know what I'm doing in here, I'm basically telling it, hey, complete this for me. It's completion, right? Just a good opportunity to kind of show people why I'm doing it this way. Task. And I know this is just test, but I'm gonna call it foo async. And I'm gonna tell you later why it's important that I'm doing it this way. And then I have completion in here. Response, completion, response. Let me move all of this down there because that's probably going to be our final test, but we'll talk about that in a second. And then I want to assert that not null my response dot response, basically response completion dot response is not null. And we're going to put a breakpoint in here just to see. So this is supposed to read my environment variables, make the call through the library. Look how simple the library is. You just, you create the request and let fly. And it's just going to do. People don't know what's happening underneath. I mean, some people do because they went through the whole 20 hours with us. But let's just see what happens here. So I'm just going to debug this. DaVinci 003. Okay. Something happened. You didn't provide API key. So did it not set the API key proper? API key. I did put it between double quotes. Set X API key. Oh. API key right here. Right, and It didn't read it right. So I'm gonna put a breakpoint in here and let's try to, because this is all set in the environment. So is it actually permanent? Because I set it up in a second window, a CMD window. So is it actually permanent? I don't know. I'm guessing you guys can't see when I hover over the variable here. It doesn't really show you. That's fantastic. Yeah, the API key is not there. Interesting. What did we do? Did I do it wrong? Let's see. So you're
How did you do it?
just like that. Set X API key and then double quotes. Set X API key, double quotes. Yeah, I don't mind. I could kill the key later, but here's what I did. It even said value saved. Watch. What am I missing? Do I try it again? Try to see if it's in the system variables in Windows. How do you do that, Crusher?
If you type in the Windows
Just
button
set.
and search, yeah, you can
type,
just say set as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's another
Just say
version.
set like this?
Yeah, do it
Yeah.
off screen, mate. You're going to expose all your stuff.
I don't care. I don't give
Yeah.
a crap. You wanna try to hack me? Come at me. You know? But it's gonna be your fault. So yeah, I don't see it in here. I do see the organization ID, but I don't see. Are they ordered alphabetically? Yeah, they are. Then why it didn't save it? Set X API key and then double quotes and then this guy. And it says specified value has been saved. So why it's not happy? Right? I'll try this. And maybe it is environment specific. I don't know. It could be. Because we're playing with Windows here at this point. If I go into this guy and I go into package manager and I say set X API key and really open your eyes with me because I could be just doing one tiny mistake and that could be the reason. Specified value has been saved, right? So if I go and run this, technically we should be good. See, it says you didn't provide API key. API key. I'm not crazy. Get environment variable. Get environment
Probably
variable.
close.
Huh?
Maybe close. Maybe
Do
you
I
should
close
close and
Visual Studio again? Oh my God. If that's what it is, I'm gonna really lose it. I'm gonna lose it. Okay, fine. Let's do it. Felipe, what does flag M mean? If that's really what it is, that's really annoying. I can't tell people that. I can't tell people, oh, let me make your engineering experience miserable. Because you know what that means? It means that if you have, and usually I'm one of these people, if you have like 5 or 6 instances of Visual Studio open, and I am telling you, close all your instances so I can persist an environment variable. That's annoying. That's really annoying. Anyway, it's probably it. You know, Rami says, I think, by the way, hi, Rami. I think Brian was right. Yeah, Brian was right. Okay, I need to send something, to the boys and tell them this is a disgusting experience. Is it the project or Visual Studio itself? So, okay. I see what they're doing. Visual Studio loads all the variables before it starts, and then it caches it, and it sits there. Yikes. You don't have to close all instances of visuals, just the one that you want to have access to the new environment variable. So it loads. Oh man, that's annoying. Brian, would you just hit Google real quick or ChatGPT and tell it how to you refresh environment variables in Visual Studio
Yeah, I'll have a
having to
look. But I also got a vague memory. I think you can actually set environment variables when you're debugging.
I thought you could do that. That's what I'm saying.
Within Visual Studio, as you run it, I thought you could sort of provide custom environment variables. I'm just not sure.
That's crazy business, man. That's some crazy business. So this is really the
find command called dev-env.
Hi, Smart.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Right. This may help. We have a chat here somehow.
Okay. While
Yep.
Mabruk is doing this, so here's a quick.
So I got a link here I can share with you to have a quick.
Oh
look
yeah. Send it in the chat if you can.
Yep. It looks like you can, but this would be ugly too, having to do this every time.
No, I can't tell the engineers. Like this is engineering experience first approach. Oh my God. So in Visual Studio, open your project, go to, but this is 2008, 2005. For example, if you want to add dictionary, blah, 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 path, blah, blah. No, nope. Think about your little guy, right? Remember, standard is about level 0, right? Think about a guy that literally just started. They don't even know how to change the font on their on their Visual Studio IDE. What does Crusher say? If you want to load the new environment variables in Visual Studio without restarting it, you can use the external console option, which will inherit the environment variable from your system, but it doesn't change, like, I don't know.
Yes,
Yeah.
Did you get my message?
Where's your message? dev-env/setup? What's that?
Yeah. This will reload settings in VS Studio or enforce VS to reload settings, including environment variables.
So do you just write in the command? I'm just typing it for people in here. How do you do that? Like in command prompt, type the command dev-env/setup?
Yep.
Oh, and it just refreshes it for you? Let's see. I'm gonna test it right now. Are you sure?
Let's see.
It's still a little inconvenient, but it's better than restarting Visual Studio. dev-env/setup like this.
Setup. Yep.
The term dev-env is not recognized.
Oh.
Maybe Visual Studio? Dev-env? I don't think so. Anyway, issue to think about. Elbic, please create an issue. Say simplify the freaking environment variable. I'm gonna open it on the Visual Studio team though, because it's not something that we can control necessarily. Okay, let me just bring us back here to, like, this is a good test. You know, this is, you know, basically we're saying given, here's my completion, and let me pick up this guy here. And this has to be real. You can't actually generate stuff in here, right? So this is input completion, right? And your input completion, and here's when. So this is the when option. You're basically going and saying input completion, and then now here's an interesting question.
I get it, Hassan. You need to call this in the developer, right? In the developer command prompt.
In the developer.
Yeah, tools, and in tools, go to tools in the menu, and command line.
Developer command prompt.
Yeah.
Oh, that pops up like an external thing. So dev-env/setup, right? And that will, let me just show it to people so people are kind of with us. It just, the operation could not be completed. The crystal operation requires elevation. Oh, so you have to run as an admin.
What happens if you use set X there, or set there?
Like in here? Let's try it.
This will be in the same shell, I believe.
XYZ, and then, I don't know, XYZ, like this.
Hmm.
But wait, even if this works, this is still a crappy experience. We need to do something about that. You know, I was kind of shaming the people who have like bat files that they run before the solution starts, and I'm not gonna go that route. I just can't. You know, it's just too much dignity there that I go back because I know someone's gonna pop up and be like, I thought you told me that's bad engineering, right? Okay, let's go back here. So here's a question for the group. So this test passes. This test is perfect, right? It basically goes and says, oh, you know, the response that came back is actually functional. The response that comes back from this is actually functional. Now, for an integration test, I'm going to go here and say, should prompt completion async. This is the last test that we need to write for this feature. And that's it. We close that. This is what we call an epic, and it closes that whole kind of line. Now, the question here is this enough? Or do we need to go and say, no, response that choices contains, and then you add in some values in here. And if you pick up one or the other, please explain why. Question also for the people in the chat. What do you guys think? So just so people understand, this is an integration test. Is going and saying assert is not null, that the response completion dot response is not null enough? Or do we need to dig into the actual values?
We
I-
don't
There
need
is
what the
response.
response would be.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
should. The unit test should cover the values.
Okay. So we just say response is not null. That's enough, right?
Is
Okay.
there in the response itself, in the response model, is there like property that it should not be null?
The response itself, it shouldn't be null.
No. Can you show us the model of this
Yeah.
response? I mean, if we need to check also that choices are there.
Yeah, but
This is
but your
depends
whole
on.
response will be null if the request didn't go through. Syed from LinkedIn says actual values. We need to check actual values. Why, Syed? Why actual values? Felipe says response not null sufficient because we can't predict what OpenAI will say. That's a good point. Let's go back here a second ago. Remember when I said we need integration tests? Why do we need integration tests? We want to make sure that the client component is talking to the service component, is talking to the broker component, is talking to the actual live API. That's it. We don't care about the values. We don't care what's in there.
Yep.
I just want the one flag, the one thing that tells me, yeah, the communication is successful. And like Felipe said, and Brian also kind of touched on it, you can never predict what AI is going to give you back. It's just not going to happen. Your integration test has only one job, to make sure that your actual integration is functional across the board. It doesn't care what values you're passing in. It doesn't care what values you're bringing back. It does not care. We care about these values that we pass in here because we don't want the API to barf, to throw an exception and say bad request. That's right. But other than that, I just want 200. I just want it to say, yeah, communication successful. Okay, and this is probably the smallest. See how the tests are getting smaller from unit to acceptance to integration, to get smaller and smaller in size because the responsibilities get smaller and smaller. It's a completely different aspect. Okay, I'm still gonna honor our structure here. I'm just gonna go and say this here is gonna be a new file. It's gonna be completion API
Will
tests.
will our GitHub action run the test each time?
Ah, we'll come to this part. Just hang in there.
It's
I'm coming. I'm coming to
hot.
it. This is where it gets really, really interesting. Yeah, I'm with you. What happened? Brian, why it doesn't let me? So it should be completions with this. Completions like that. Okay, perfect. And this guy should be public and partial as well. And then I want to add in copyrights in here. You're always rushing things, Mabruk. When are we gonna start the session? Where is the variables? How are you gonna do it in the pipe? My man, chill out. I'm trying to give. I'm just messing with you, Mabruk. I love you, brother. You're awesome. Gee.
Love you too.
Good. As long as we have that, then nothing can stop us, right? Okay, so here's a partial. Control KE. All right. This guy should be happy. Why is it not happy? Does anyone know? Completions, integrations. Oh, the name. The name. Even though I changed the test name, it didn't change the class name. There you go. Okay, let's give it one more run. It's worth the 0.000% of a cent that's running the test. Felipe, they should, but they don't. So look, this is a good question. Felipe says that OpenAI allow a test request with fixed response. Not sure, maybe I will check. You know, proper APIs out there, they give you what they call like a sandbox. And they create these sandboxes to ensure that your communication is actually happening without costing you money. Unfortunately, I don't know if they have that. So if you find it, I'll be very happy. Okay, so this guy is running completely successfully and no problem there. Elbic, I'm gonna leave the delete me for one of the guys to kind of feel nice and contribute to open source and all that. Okay, so that's one piece, right? I'm gonna push this piece in, but this piece is going to fail in the pipeline. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna open up this guy. Watch this. I'm gonna open up this guy here. I'm gonna type in here, watch this. There is something underneath the fact, something called trait. Watch this, trait. So what the heck is this trait? This trait basically goes and says, I can only run this test if and only if a certain condition has been met. So in here, I'm saying only when set release equal true, run this test. Otherwise, don't. I think, as far as I remember it. Let's try to run everything and see if this runs at all. Here you go. Run, run, run. Or I think you have to set it to false by default and then you go back later, I think, if I remember this proper. Yeah, it's still running it. You still need the traits. Let's go back real quick. I have in my brain some references, but we still need to refresh on those. So in traits in XUnit, you can assign key value in traits to XUnit, and you're basically categorizing, but you're only, like here's a trait, UI, front, and all that. But then when you're running, you're selecting only certain traits, right? But also when you do run the test, you're basically saying filter, where the category is this, and the category is not this. And that's what we're gonna bake into our pipeline itself. If you don't want to deal with that, you can just go and say skip. And in the skip reason, you're basically saying release only test. Right? Let's do that. Let's go here. Let's go in here. And I want to basically, you know, kind of test this first. So I'm going to say in here, .NET test, like this. Watch this. So it's running everything, including the integration test. But this time, I'm going to say .NET test dash dash filter, right? And then the rest of this was a release equal true. Let's see what happens here. Look, it's skipping the all test except for the release one. So that means if I say filter release is not true, it will run all the tests except the integration tests.
No, is there integration?
No, there's one that's delete me.
Okay.
That's not the real one, right? Because if you scroll up here, you'll see that the integration had one that matches that. You have two tests and integrations right there. But that's for the pipeline, right? How do we tell people not to do this through the UI, right? If you go through your UI in here, and you basically go and say your traits in here, you can filter and you say take away the release true. Do you guys see that little window? So this basically says take away the release equal true, and it takes it out. The problem with that is you can't actually go and tell people to do that. It's impractical. Like engineers will pull in the code, not read the documentation, and they will just run it. So what's a better option for this? Let me show you. A better option is for you to just go ahead like this and say, while this trait is amazing and everything, to go ahead in here and say skip, and just basically go and say this test is only for releases. Like that. So now if I run it this way, it will give you this yellow kind of mark, be like, hey, I'm skipping this guy. Watch this. It's like a warning or something. Watch this. It says, hey, by the way, you have a test in here that's being skipped. So it's either way, it's inconvenient because you're basically telling people to go do an extra step just to filter the tests in your Visual Studio. Otherwise, if they don't set up the variable, it's going to keep costing them money because they're going to keep running the tests and they have no idea. They say, I don't know, Hassan told me to set it up this way. The other option is for them to always see this little warning mark. I don't know of a third option, but I love the try nature of things, so I'd like to believe that there's a third option out there. Thoughts, comments? I bet these sessions are making people research and just go online and look for things, and it's great because you have a goal, you're looking for all the tools that will get you to achieve that goal. Okay, this in here ready to be pushed out. So I'm gonna go ahead in here and create a pull request. So this here is a pass, and it's always a pass from the first shot because it's an after fact. There's no failing here. When it fails, that means something is wrong with your test and all that. Did I create a branch for this? That's probably a good idea, don't you think? So users, Hassan, Habib. This is, by the way, the first time I write an integration test out in public, in a public repo or on a public stream, which is great, right? Integrations, completions, prompt. Here we go. And here's my branch. And that closes in all the tests that we need to run for this. Now here comes another question. What are we missing? How do I set the pipeline to read my secrets? We're not done yet. We're just getting warmed up, right? So let's create this PR first. Like, what if we actually want to run this and pay money every time this test run? Let's say we're crazy. Does it make sense that we push our secrets hard-coded? There gotta be a way where you're able to kind of set up the environment variable in real time in the pipeline itself. I'll show you in a second how we do that. So, okay, I'm going to type in here integrations and then completions prompt. And here's a pull request. Elbic, do I have a test for this one? An issue for this one? Can you check real quick?
You should, because you created one. It's 85.
Oh, I did create
Oh,
one, didn't I?
completion tests errors. Oh, it's acceptance. I'm sorry. I'm creating one.
Okay, thank you. So while Elbic is doing this piece, right, just give me a number if you can. I'm just going to go ahead in here and say closes.
It's
What's
96.
96? Integration should prompt async. Perfect. Right, and I'll wait for this guy because I want to make sure that the pipeline is actually doing the thing. Okay, here comes the fun part. We need to be able to go and say, set up environment variables. And these environment variables need to read the secrets from my GitHub repository. What do? You go to secrets and you look down here, you'll find secrets and variables right here. And then in secrets and variables, you need to go and say new repository secret. I need to set up a variable in here. And in here, I can basically go and say, this is my API key, right? And I need to, hold on, let me take this away for a sec. The real question is, do I put it in double quotes or not? That's going to be a fun thing to explore together, Mabruk. We'll see. So here's one. And then I'm going to set up another repository secret for org ID, which is basically going to be the organization ID, which is going to be this guy. I hope they come in as strings. I really hope so, because if they don't, I'm going to be a little bit disappointed. Luca says, by the way, Twitch shows the stream as a rerun, but it's not actually a rerun. I don't know how you can fix that in StreamYard. Okay, thank you. We'll figure it out. Thank you for letting me know. So I added these keys in here. Look how it adds it all uppercase like that. And people put underscores and stuff like that, but I'm a .NET guy, so I don't like underscores. You shouldn't be using underscores at all in .NET. At all. Especially with private class members. Okay, so adding in these secrets is not enough, right? Because you added the secrets in the repo, but how do you turn that secret into an environment variable in the VM, the agent that the pipeline of GitHub is actually building for you? This is where it gets interesting, right? Check this out. I hope our PR is ready because I want to merge that stuff. Come on. Come on, man. Ugh. Okay, I'll branch off of the branch because there are no other changes in there at the moment, so I'll just do that. Watch this fun stuff. Watch and be entertained. I'll create a branch in here and say users Hassan Habib /infra add environment variables. Do you guys remember the build project that we had together? We built a little, and everyone was so happy, and they said, "Oh my God, I didn't know you can write, YAML code in C# and all that." Watch this little magic for you. We had to do this, of course, because we needed to, right? Watch this. There is a value in here that you can do. Is it under jobs? I think it's probably under jobs. Come on. Oh, it's not here for sure. There is a thing. It should be in here, honestly. Let's see. Did I actually consume all my... Give me a second. We have an option in here that basically tells you can actually add an environment variable in the pipeline, in the build, that will do that trick for you. I just want to show you exactly. These are one of these things that you just do it once per project, so don't expect to remember that stuff. It's going to be very tough to remember all of these things. let's see here. So it's definitely inside jobs, inside build, inside the build job. I see. Okay, cool. Let's go inside the build job. And then inside the build job, I don't know why we put it in here. This might be something that we need to think about. But here's your environment variables. It's a new dictionary of string, like this. And then I want to set up my API key. That's your environment variable, but you're reading that from GitHub secrets. So you go here and say secrets dot API key. And then here's another one, which is org ID. And this guy should read, and I think you need the space in there. I know we went through hell just to get this to work the way we want it to. Org ID like that. So now if I run this project again, so this is set as a startup project. Here you go. If I run this guy again, this guy should generate an entirely new YAML for me. Watch this YAML here. Oh, you won't be able to see it because I'm in a solution, but I can go like this. I can open workflows. Here's YAML. Watch this new guy. Environment, and now it's setting some variables for me. And these guys in here, these are the guys. That's the stuff that you want to basically access from your GitHub repository. How cool is that? It's pretty cool, huh? I think I missed something though, because I'm kind of literally copy pasting. You need to put in a $sign because it's not complicated enough. Let's make it even more complicated. I don't know, did we put this $sign because we're actually, nope, it's just how it works. Let's generate this code again. Oh my God. Hold on, let me rebuild this. Oh, I can't run because, okay. Here we go. So now if I
By the
go
way,
back, go ahead.
oh, I merged the PR, by the way.
Good, good, thank you. Yeah, that should be the generated code right there. Right, that's how it should look like. So API key, so now, fingers crossed, what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna remove the the skip part from here. And if we set up this right, this guy is gonna run in the pipeline. And then we're gonna have to change it real quick because by the morning, I'm gonna be charged like $100,000 or something. I'm just kidding. I have a limit 25. If you exceed the limit per month, it'll just shut you down. I know why they did this because some people are crazy. They'll put it in a for loop or something. So let's do this. So infra, add environment variables, GitHub secrets, and then let's do this. Commit all and push. So it should create a pull request. Let's go back here. Here is my pull request. Moment of truth. Let's see. I'd be surprised if it worked the first time, but it's worth the shot. All right, any questions from anyone about what I just did? You're basically setting up environment variables. You set them up in the repository. You read them. A.NET will allow you to add these variables as environment variables. And then our test will be able to access it just the way we accessed, except, which is funny, setting up the environment variable in the remote agent is much easier than setting up on my own local machine. That was a pain. That was very painful. So the good news is that they set up these environment variables before your build even starts. So everything should be ready, technically. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And it should kind of show me something in here that says I set up your environment variables. If memory serves. Did it? It should sometimes tell you, hey, I'm setting up some of these environment variables for you. GitHub token permissions, read. That means it's probably accessing something. Let's see. Come on. Uh-huh. I thought it would tell you that it set up these things. I don't know. I remember. Long time. But you see, the more you create some of these projects, the more you get used to these things. And at least this project being open source will always be a reference for anybody who wants to kind of access secrets in their pipeline. The interesting part, though, would be to configure this to publish to NuGet automatically and increase the version. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, so maybe not today is the release day, but it's okay. I'd rather be right than be fast. Completely different things, so we have to do it right, right?
I
Also,
guess
we have to,
secrets are skipped in the logger.
it says skip the secrets.
Maybe.
Where do you see it?
No, I mean, because you are looking for the logging
Oh, skip the
environment
secrets in the
values.
logging?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, it'll never give you the actual secret. It will even show you like dots.
Mhm.
Like whoever built the pipeline smart enough to say, hey, there is a asterisk, right? It's going to give you a bunch of stars like this and say there is secrets in here. So what people do is that they write a command line to write these secrets to a text file on the VM. And then you go figure out where that text file is, and that's how you read and verify. It's basically your way of debugging whether your environment is reading the secrets properly or not. There is a way around it, people do it. Okay, here we go. Mm-hmm. If it fails, I don't know what to do anymore. Tired. Here we go. So if it says integrations to successful tests, then we're good. This is, yeah, there you go. It's running. It's pretty sweet, right?
Yeah. And it's sweeter when it works from the first time.
It's sweeter when it works the first time, right? So Elbic, so let me merge this first.
And I've created the issue for this, and probably
Oh, you already
need
created an
to-
issue for it, right?
Yeah.
The number was
98.
98. Add environment variables. Perfect. So this here, confirm merge, this is good to go. Now, Elbic, you probably want to create another issue. That one would be
Alright.
easy. You just add skip on that test. Just add skip there. So
On the
it would
integration
be
test?
in the integration test. So we need to add skip because now this test, every time this runs in the pipeline, it's going to actually call the real API. Right? So we have to add skip. And then next session, we're going to add the ability to enable this when we decide to make a release. What would be nice for us to kind of determine is how do we enable this flag? Like how can we, through a PR, enable the flag that says, hey, go ahead and release?
A tag.
Like a tag?
Mm.
So we have to create a PR to make a release. And the PR has to have a flag that we flip or a tag that we put in that basically goes and says, okay, we're ready to release. Go ahead and do that work for us. And when we flip that tag, it needs to unskip that test. Because just so you know, our integration tests are going to get a little expensive because you're going to be adding completion. You're going to be adding image processing, text, voice. It's going to get really, really, really interesting. But we're learning, right? We're learning how these things work. And we're building a proper library. Okay. Now, the other challenge that we have, this wraps up our session today, but the other challenge that we have is we need a name for our NuGet package. OpenAI.net is already taken. So Brian has been putting a lot of effort into kind of trying to figure out what's a better name for this. One of the things that he said was standard.openai.net. We can do standard.ai.openai. I am open to the naming, but you have to understand, if we change the name, everything has to match. Like we have to change the repository name, we have to change the solution name, the project name. It's going to be a little bit of work. It's not smart's work, it's more like grunt work, but it's very much so needed work. So whatever we decide on, I don't know, Brian, can we create an issue on GitHub that has like vote? Like people can vote to it? Is that a thing?
I
You
don't
think
know.
so?
No, I've never seen it.
We need
We
to
could put
find the name for this
We could put a vote
repository.
on. Can't we put votes on LinkedIn or something?
Oh, votes on LinkedIn? Yeah, we could probably
Twitter.
do that. Or Twitter, Facebook. Everyone now has a voting system. Can we put a vote in the standard community on Discord? That would be one way to do this. Okay, so that basically, so if you look, just for the people watching and for everyone else, this here, in my book, this here is what I call state-of-the-art software, because it tests unit acceptance integration. It's test-driven, it's standardized, it follows the standard down to the last minute detail, right? And we have all that in place. Elbic, is this, did you create, oh, someone already created the delete, nice.
Yeah.
Oh my God. People are already creating, yeah. Felipe says, can we do thumbs up on GitHub? Okay, we can probably do that. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna create an issue here. And then I'm gonna say documentation. Find a new name for this repo. And then if you make a suggestion, like, there is standard.openai.net. And then people will basically go and vote on this. So they will basically go and say, oh, I like this or I don't like this. Right? And I ask the community, since we still have a little bit of work to do, please go and vote. Like, add your suggestion. And I'm going to wait a little bit. And then I'm just tell people, go ahead and vote. I like this idea, Felipe. Thank you so much. This is perfect. I like it. I think the other suggestions that we have, what was it, Brian? What was it? One idea that I had is .NET OpenAI Core. That
Yep.
was a suggestion. There was also OpenAI.core.net.sdk, but that's taken. Did you say someone took that already?
That's taken. Yep.
Anyway, come up with names, because we need a good name for this. It's gonna change this URL, which basically gonna change the whole project. Like the link is not gonna work anymore. The link to this project is not gonna work anymore. But we need to change the name. Also, one idea that I had was OpenAI.net, like this, .net. But that's also hacky and ugly, and I don't know what to do with it. Come up with ideas. Come up with names. We really need this. Also, come up with logos. I know Elbic has some ideas for logos. Brian has some ideas for logos. Come up with ideas for logos, right? And see what people say, and let's just vote. Let's make this like a whole community effort this way. I appreciate you all for this session today. This was fun. I hope we all learned something, at least how to set up variables in freaking Windows. And I'll talk to you later. Thank you all so much.
All
Take care.
right. Take care.
See you.
Nice.